What if your anger is not your enemy? What if your grief is not a weakness? What if the very emotional storm you have been trying to hide is actually the doorway into your soul mastery path? Today, I want to take you into an actual case study, Jodie, through the soul mastery path system using the Panchanga framework of Vedic astrology. This is not a generic personality reading. This is a consciousness map. This is a light and shadow map. This is a way to observe the self, accept the self, forgive the self, and finally master the self. Jodie's Panchanga inputs are powerful. Tuesday Vara, Shukla Chaturdashi Tithi, Gara Karana, Indra Yoga, and Ardra Nakshatra. Immediately, this tells me something very clear. This is not a soft, passive, comfort-oriented path. This is a storm to mastery path. This is the path of a person who is here to transform anger, grief, emotional intensity, self-sacrifice, responsibility, power, pride, and pain into embodied authority, discipline, compassion, and self-mastery. And if you're listening to this as a seeker, a conscious man or woman, someone who is deeply interested in light and shadow work, I want you to listen carefully. Because the purpose of this system is not to label you. The purpose is to help you observe yourself. The purpose is to show you where your light lives, where your shadow hides, and where your mastery begins. In Jodie's case, the 5 Panchanga limbs create a very specific consciousness signature. Tuesday gives the fire. Shukla Chaturdashi gives the emotional edge. Gara gives the earth of responsibility and manifestation. Indra gives the ether of influence, prestige, and power. Ardra gives the air of storm, grief, intelligence, and transformation. So when I look at Jodie's map, I do not see a person who is meant to escape her intensity. I see someone who is meant to master it. That is the first turning point in soul mastery path work. You do not begin by asking, how do I get rid of this part of me? You begin by asking, what is this part of me trying to teach me? Jodie's Tuesday Vara is ruled by Mars. This is the fire body. This gives courage, action, determination, confrontation, protection, and survival instinct. Jodie is not built to sit silently while life passes by. There is a fighter inside her. There is a protector inside her. There is someone who can face difficult moments, take hard decisions, defend what matters, and move forward even when life becomes heavy. But every light has a shadow. The shadow of Tuesday is anger, impatience, impulsive reaction, and the feeling that if I am not fighting something, I am not alive. This is where Jodie's self-observation begins. When anger rises, the question is not, why am I so angry? The deeper question is, what am I protecting? Is this anger protecting a wound? Is it protecting a boundary? Is it protecting an old betrayal? Is it protecting a fear of being used, controlled, ignored, or misunderstood? This is understanding the path. You begin observing yourself through the 5 elements. Fire asks, what activates me? Water asks, what do I feel? Earth asks, what do I carry? Ether asks, what pattern holds my life together? Air asks, what thoughts keep moving through me? And in Jodie's case, the water body is extremely important because her Tithi is Shukla Chaturdashi. This is not ordinary emotional sensitivity. This is edge sensitivity. This is the emotional body of tapas, severance, sacrifice, radical honesty, and deep karmic memory. A Shukla Chaturdashi person feels life intensely. This person does not simply get over things. The emotional body remembers, it stores, it observes betrayal, it observes unfairness, it observes weakness, it observes where people are false. And because of this, the person can become deeply truthful, powerful, and uncompromising. But the shadow is equally strong. Shukla Chaturdashi can hold grudges, it can become revengeful, it can become emotionally severe, it can sacrifice too much and then resent people for not recognizing the sacrifice. It can say, I will suffer, but I will prove my point. That is not mastery. That is pain wearing the mask of strength. So for Jodie, the emotional path is very direct. She must learn to feel the wound without becoming the wound. She must learn to protect herself without punishing the world. She must learn to end what is false without destroying her own peace. This is why radical forgiveness is essential in this map. And let me be very clear. Forgiveness here does not mean weakness. It does not mean going back to unsafe people. It does not mean excusing harm. It does not mean pretending betrayal did not happen. Radical forgiveness means I refuse to let this wound continue governing my identity. That is a completely different level of consciousness. When Jodie forgives, she is not giving the other person power. She is taking her power back from the memory. That is the shift from shadow to mastery. Now, her Karana is Gara, and this is the earth limb. Karana shows how the person manifests. It shows how the emotional body becomes action. Gara is a builder. Gara carries responsibility. Gara thinks in large frameworks. Gara wants to create foundations, systems, order, structures, and practical results. So Jodie is not only emotional intensity, she's not only fire, she's not only storm, she's also someone who can build. This is very important because when Shukla Chaturdashi intensity is not grounded, it can become destructive. But when it is grounded through Gara, it becomes mission, structure, service, responsibility, and long-term manifestation. Gara says, do not merely feel deeply. Build something from what you feel. This is the practical earth medicine. But again, every light has a shadow. Gara can make life feel heavy. Jodie may feel she carries too much. She may feel that people depend on her too much. She may feel, if I don't do it, it will not be done correctly. She may take responsibility for other people's emotions, choices, failures, and unfinished lives. This becomes the martyr pattern, and the soul mastery correction is this. Responsibility is sacred, but over-responsibility is shadow. Service is sacred, but self-abandonment is shadow. Building is sacred, but carrying everything alone is shadow. So in embodying the path, Jodie must ask herself, what am I carrying that is no longer mine to carry? That one question can change her life. Now we come to Indra Yoga, the ether limb. Yoga shows the atmosphere that binds life together. Indra is a powerful yoga. It gives prestige, influence, knowledge, reach, leadership energy, and the ability to be respected in one's field. Jodie is not meant to remain invisible forever. Her chart signature carries influence. She can guide, she can lead, she can manage, she can learn many things. She can become a person others look toward in moments of uncertainty. But Indra also has a shadow: pride, self-interest, emotional secrecy, the desire to stay above vulnerability, the ability to help others but also to withdraw, dominate, or protect oneself when wounded. This is a very subtle shadow because it can look like strength from outside. But inside, it may be fear. The fear of being exposed, the fear of being emotionally dependent, the fear of being seen as weak, the fear that if I do not control the situation, I will be hurt again. So the Indra mastery question is, am I leading from service or am I controlling from wounded pride? That is a powerful question because Jodie's path is not just to become influential. Her path is to become clean in her influence. Influence without humility becomes domination. Knowledge without vulnerability becomes superiority. Leadership without compassion becomes control. Power without self-awareness becomes shadow. This is why the soul mastery path is not just about becoming successful. It is about becoming integrated. Then we come to Ardra Nakshatra, the air limb. Ardra is the storm. Ardra is grief. Ardra is intellectual sharpness. Ardra is research. Ardra is sorrow and rejuvenation. Ardra is the ability to rise from ashes. Ardra is the mind that wants to investigate, break monotony, expose hidden truth, and transform negativity. This is one of the most important signatures in Jodie's map. Ardra says, I have seen the storm, and now I must learn what the storm was teaching me. This nakshatra gives deep intelligence. It gives psychological perception. It gives attraction to causes, research, healing, astrology, technology, social change, and non-traditional thinking. Jodie may be able to understand people's pain because she has gone through her own emotional storms. But the shadow is nervous system turbulence. Ardra can keep the mind moving. It can overthink. It can analyze grief instead of feeling it. It can become restless, suspicious, reactive, and addicted to emotional intensity. It can feel that peace is unfamiliar and therefore peace is unsafe. This is a very deep shadow pattern. Many people do not fear pain as much as they fear peace. Why? Because pain is familiar, conflict is familiar, crisis is familiar, emotional storms are familiar, but ease feels strange, joy feels temporary, calm feels suspicious. So Jodie's Ardra mastery is to teach the nervous system that calm is not weakness, ease is not laziness, joy is not denial, peace is not the absence of depth. This is where the path of mastery begins. Understanding the path is observation. Embodying the path is acceptance, forgiveness, and boundary crossing. But mastery is integration. Mastery is when Jodie no longer splits herself into good parts and bad parts. She no longer says, my anger is bad. She says, my anger needs discipline. She no longer says, my grief is weakness. She says, my grief needs expression. She no longer says, my intensity is too much. She says, my intensity needs devotion. She no longer says, my pride is evil. She says, my pride is asking for humility. She no longer says, my need for control is wrong. She says, my need for control is showing me where I do not yet trust life. This is the real light and shadow work. You do not become whole by deleting your shadow. You become whole by understanding the unmet need inside the shadow. Jodie's fire needs direction. Her water needs forgiveness. Her earth needs boundaries. Her ether needs humility. Her air needs peace. This is the 5-element path. So how does Jodie begin living beyond light and shadow? First, she must stop treating intensity as identity. Intensity is an energy. It is not the whole self. Second, she must stop treating sacrifice as proof of love. Love that requires self-erasure is not love. It is karmic repetition. Third, she must stop treating anger as clarity. Sometimes anger is clear, but sometimes anger is only pain moving too fast. Fourth, she must stop treating responsibility as destiny. Some responsibilities are sacred. Some are inherited burdens. Some are emotional habits. Some are people's projections. Fifth, she must stop treating influence as safety. Being respected is not the same as being emotionally free. This is where radical acceptance enters. For Jodie, radical acceptance means, I accept that I am intense. I accept that I feel deeply. I accept that betrayal affects me strongly. I accept that I have leadership energy. I accept that I need freedom. I accept that I must learn softness consciously. This is not self-indulgence. This is self-honesty. Then radical forgiveness enters. She must forgive herself for the years she reacted instead of responded. She must forgive herself for staying too long in situations that drained her. She must forgive herself for confusing suffering with loyalty. She must forgive herself for becoming hard when she was only trying to survive. She must forgive herself for not knowing how to be gentle with her own pain. And then comes radical mental and emotional boundary crossing. This is the point where Jodie crosses from, I was hurt, into I am healing. I must prove into I must embody. I must control into I must discern. I must fight into I must act cleanly. I must carry everything into I must build sustainably. This is not motivational language. This is consciousness training. Because for this Panchanga pattern, the deepest mastery is not becoming soft in a weak way. It is becoming soft in a powerful way. Soft enough to forgive, strong enough to set boundaries, clear enough to speak truth, humble enough to admit pain, disciplined enough to build, wise enough to stop repeating storms. In relationships, this map can be intense. Jodie may love through loyalty, protection, sacrifice, truth, depth, and responsibility, but she must be careful not to test the person she loves, punish through silence, weaponize truth, or expect others to understand pain she has not expressed. The relationship mastery is simple but difficult. Do not use truth as a weapon. Use truth as a bridge. Do not use silence as punishment. Use silence as reflection. Do not use sacrifice to buy love. Use boundaries to preserve love. Do not confuse emotional intensity with intimacy. Intimacy requires safety, repair, tenderness, and honesty. In work and purpose, this map is extremely powerful. Jodie can do work connected with transformation, research, psychology, astrology, healing systems, technology, social causes, crisis management, administration, law, finance, institutional work, leadership, or spiritual counseling. But the purpose path must follow this formula. Pain becomes insight. Insight becomes discipline. Discipline becomes structure. Structure becomes service. Service becomes influence. That is the clean expression of this map. The shadow expression is different. Pain becomes anger. Anger becomes control. Control becomes isolation. Isolation becomes burnout. Burnout becomes resentment. So the question is not whether Jodie is powerful. She is powerful. The real question is, will that power become protection, service, wisdom, and joy? Or will it remain tied to pain, control, and emotional memory? That is the soul mastery path. Now, if I had to summarize Jodie's map in one sentence, I would say this. Jodie is here to become a powerful, embodied, self-mastered woman who no longer needs pain to prove depth, conflict to prove strength, or sacrifice to prove love. That is the essence. When she integrates her light and shadow, she becomes self-confident without arrogance. She becomes self-effacing without self-erasure. She becomes strong without becoming hard. She becomes truthful without becoming cruel. She becomes influential without becoming inflated. She becomes disciplined without becoming joyless. And most importantly, she begins to live with ease. For a map like this, ease is not automatic. Ease must be learned, joy must be learned, rest must be learned, trust must be learned, gentleness must be learned. Because when someone has lived through storms, calm can feel unnatural at first, but this is exactly where mastery begins. The final stage of Jodie's path is not to choose light and reject shadow. The final stage is to embrace all parts: the fighter, the wounded one, the builder, the leader, the storm bearer, the forgiver, the protector, the soft heart, the intense truth speaker, the woman who has survived, the woman who is now ready to live. This is how Jodie moves towards self-mastery living, not through denial, not through spiritual bypassing, not through pretending to be peaceful, but through full integration. She honors her fire, she cleanses her grief, she releases revenge, she builds with patience, she leads with humility, she transforms the storm into wisdom. She lives with ease, joy, dignity, and glory. And this is why the Soul Mastery Path system is so powerful for seekers, conscious men and women, healers, coaches, spiritual students, and anyone doing real light and shadow work. Because it does not just tell you who you are. It shows you how to observe yourself. It shows you where you are reacting. It shows you where you are carrying old pain. It shows you where your light is overcompensating for your wound. It shows you where your shadow is not your enemy, but an unintegrated part of your intelligence. And once you can see yourself clearly, you can stop living unconsciously. You can stop repeating the same emotional patterns. You can stop calling pain destiny. You can stop calling over-sacrifice love. You can stop calling anger truth. You can stop calling control safety. And you can begin the real path, the path of embodied self-mastery. So if you are listening to this and you feel that your own life carries a pattern you cannot fully explain, if you feel the same emotional themes keep repeating, the same relationship wounds keep returning, the same inner conflicts keep resurfacing, then your soul mastery path may be asking to be decoded. Your Panchanga map may be showing you the exact doorway into your light, your shadow, your emotional body, your karmic habits, your embodied healing, and your mastery. If you want a deep soul mastery path reading, one that works for you, one that helps you understand your own 5-element consciousness map, your emotional patterns, your light and shadow signatures, and your path toward embodied ease, joy, confidence, forgiveness, and glory, get in touch with me. Because the goal is not just to know your chart. The goal is to become yourself completely. The goal is to live beyond light and shadow. The goal is soul mastery.